There is so much negativity right now. Let's talk about things that bring hope and do it in a genuine way. You wake up every day and you make a choice. Am I going to work to make today a good day or a bad day? Or let the world happen to me. There's kind of a way to think about it. And so framing it in that space, like I can give into the fear that, look, today's going to be terrible. But you get stuck in that spiral. They're like, you just need to know that you're actually worried. So I had to reframe my comments and say, I haven't slept in 3 weeks. I am worried about the future. And, we've yet to find a challenge that we haven't been able to figure out, right? I think every team, every family, every friend group, like there is someone in that group that is the Eeyore. And they're good people.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now, let's get it started. Welcome to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I'm going to be your host as usual. We have the optimist, Mike Baker, in the house. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing fantastic. How about that?
That it doesn't get much better than that. I love that myself. I'm doing fantastic myself. So guys, today's show is going to be one that you are going to want to bookmark and come back to a whole bunch of times. We are going to be talking about optimism, and it's many facets. As entrepreneurs, we know how important that is. So before we get started, what I want to do is I want to ask you a small favor. If you would like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get updates every time we drop a new episode, I would be absolutely grateful for that. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Mike, give us the skinny, who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Let's do it. I know I've been working on this introduction, but it just, I'm Mike Baker. I am this goofy guy in North Idaho that just thinks that if you smile and work hard, you can make a difference in the world. And, that seems to like sum it all up because I have imposter syndrome like crazy, and I try lots of things and I have lots of fun, but at the end of the day, I'm just another guy out there trying to make the world a little bit better, and I think I like that. I like that version of me. It's pretty cool. I work in healthcare, written a book. I produce music, and I'm learning to play the guitar, and yeah, all the stuff. But I'm just that guy.
It's like you talk about imposter syndrome, then you've got like your Spotify list. It's just like, how does that work? That is
Yeah.
so impressive.
No,
That is so
thanks.
impressive.
Yeah, it's been just a crazy fun adventure for sure.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So you wrote the book on optimism. What inspired you to write the book?
This one it was really funny how it came about. So I've been working at a community health center here in North Idaho for about 15 years. And I'm optimistic by nature. So, but as you work with a board of directors and entrepreneurs and people working for pitches, like you're going to get this. So we had a board meeting, and we were going through a hard time, and had a board member make a comment that just said, "Mike, you're just too optimistic." And it was like, I know, and but it was one of those moments that settled. Like, yeah, I've got to figure out how to explain this. Because I think there's such a difference between toxic positivity and what I call realistic optimism, right? So I am optimistic because I know that I have a great team around me. I know that we're going to work our butts off, that we're going to solve a problem. I know that I'm going to put the energy in to make tomorrow better. I'm not just sitting here saying, hey, you know, this turd sandwich here is, beautiful gourmet thing and it's the best. Like we're not just making stuff up, like we're really talking about it. And what I had to do in that particular scenario, and I think it's great advice, you always want to be confident and optimistic, but for my board, there was a comment. They're like, "We just need to know that you're actually worried about something, right?" And so I had to like reframe my comments and say,
Mhm.
"Look, yeah, boy, I haven't slept in 3 weeks. I am worried about the future. There's lots of challenges, and we've yet to find a challenge that we haven't been able to figure out, right? And that's what keeps me optimistic. My job as the CEO, right? I'm supposed to paint the picture and, move people from point A to point B with clarity. And it's really hard to do that if you think tomorrow's going to be a terrible day. And so I think you have to find that balance. So it's a really funny way to have that book emerge. So that came out, then it's almost like a therapy session in my head trying to justify it and explain it. And then
Yeah.
it turned into a book, and it's been a lot of fun.
Wow, wow, wow. You talked about, toxic positivity. Oh, and the hurt sandwich. We'll have to go back to the hurt sandwich.
Yeah.
Is that, like, just an Idaho thing, or is that
I don't know,
is that,
maybe.
like Toxic positivity is what you I think you kind of alluded to that, but go ahead and, break that down for me.
Yeah, well, I think, many of us have been in rooms where you know, you're facing a challenge or there's something going on and look, you almost want to strangle that person. Kind of like maybe my board member was feeling that time. Like, listen, there's a real problem here. And all you're telling me is sunshine and rainbows and things are going to be fine without any evidence to back it up. Or, you're always so positive. It's almost like that becomes a mask. It's not truthful. Um and I think early in my career I definitely would lean more into that space, but I learned, over time that, like, so dial it back and, you know, tell the whole story, right? I mean, it's not authentic to just say, "Look, everything's perfect every moment of the day." But lean into some of the discomfort, talk about it, but then flip it around and say, "Yeah, I am optimistic because I believe in myself. I believe in my team. I really do believe the universe wants us to be successful, right?" So there's a layer of that that's there, but if it's that toxic positivity, I don't think that builds teams. I think it's a temporary feeling, but I
Yeah.
think the realistic optimism builds teams.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, and this may be just my thinking, not toxic, but optimism isn't necessarily, doesn't necessarily have an emotional attachment to it. So if something happens, we know that this thing happened. Doesn't mean that because we're optimistic that we can work through it, that we're extremely happy about it. Is that pretty
No,
accurate?
yeah, I think that's great. Actually, I haven't heard someone, frame it like that, but I love that. I think that's a really great way to think about it. Um, I think I'm an empath, right? So I feel the emotion in almost everything, and so I connect it to like, okay, tomorrow for me, if I'm being pessimistic, I am equate that to kind of darkness and fear and, and I'm thinking of tomorrow like hope and light and sunshine and all that stuff. So I think there's a layer of that. But it isn't necessarily like, hey, you're gonna go through a problem and it's gonna feel great and, be amazing. Like, dude, it's gonna suck going through some of these problems and you're gonna have fear and you're gonna lose sleep and you might have to make some really unpopular decisions as a leader. Um, but hopefully you can frame it in a way that, kind of, you go back to like Simon Sinek and, like talk about the why behind everything, right? And,
Yeah,
tie it back. And I think when you know the why, it's easy to tie back to a message of, um, optimism and hope for the future.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You mentioned fear a couple of times. I was listening to someone, just talking about fear, and they were talking about how, I mean, essentially what she was essentially saying was is fear is the devil's playground. And what she was saying by that is it like opens us up to all sorts of other, negative thoughts, whether it's, imposter syndrome or, whatever that is. What is the relationship, or do you see a relationship between fear and optimism?
I do, and I mean, I think it's a good and bad thing. I love the fear is the devil's playground, right? Because so our mind is so powerful, right? When you can wake up, I talk about in the book, like you wake up every day, and I think you make a choice. There's a choice you're gonna make. Like, is today gonna be? Am I gonna work to make today a good day or a bad day? Or or let the world happen to me. There's kind of a way to think about it, and so framing it in that space, like I can give in to the fear that look, today's gonna be terrible. I'm gonna, my dog's gonna run away, my truck's gonna break down. Like, none of those things may happen, but you can get stuck in that spiral, and I think that's where fear and darkness really kinda creep in, which I ultimately like, hope is my biggest thing, and so you lose hope if you have too many consecutive days where it's just that dark spiral versus, the optimistic choice you make today might suck. Like, I might be broke. My car might be broken down. I did lose my dog. My girlfriend ran away, like a country song. You got all that going, but you can say, I'm gonna still put myself out there. I'm gonna go find my dog. I'm gonna, work on myself. I'm gonna, fix my truck. I mean, there's just that element of saying, what can I do to make today better? And I think that's where that choice comes in.
Mm. So what I'm hearing you say is optimism is tied to hope, and hope allows us to frame things a lot differently when we're going out into the world. So it's like I'm going to find my dog, et cetera, et cetera. There's
Mhm.
definitely joy in that. I
Right.
like my dog a lot.
I love my dog.
I get that. I love that. I love that. So, say I'm the type of person, I wake up and I'm thinking of, I can't remember I think it was Darcy, the cartoon MTV, I think it was like many, many, many moons ago. Dara or something like that.
Or
You
no,
wake up in the morning and
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
today's probably gonna suck. It's
Right.
probably gonna rain. I'm probably gonna get splashed by a bus. So
Yep.
this is a way of thinking that is sometimes embedded in people's psyche. How do we move from that place? And I mean, one of the other things I learned is that sometimes like that place is comfortable for people. So how do we move, from that place to a place where it's just like, even if it rains today, I'm still going to be productive, and my girlfriend's going to come over. How do we change that? I mean, that's significant.
No, I love it. It takes work. Like, I have really bad days. I have days where I don't put in the work to make it a good day, and I do. I'll have a bad day. My daughter has really difficult chronic disease, and, like, she's my inspiration. I see her, like, she definitely has every right to say, "Tomorrow's gonna suck," right? But she wakes up, she makes a choice, and she fights through that chronic disease, and she goes to school, she, you know, hangs out with her friends. She does things where I know inside she's hurting, she's in pain, she's struggling, but she's working, to just make tomorrow better. I love your example of the cartoon. So I think of Eeyore, right? In
Hmm.
Winnie the Pooh. So Eeyore, like,
Yeah,
oh, it is gonna rain today. And you got that whole concept where it's like, yeah, that is embedded and it is comfortable. And
yeah,
so, like, in my book, and obviously there's lots of other places, but in my book, the way I wrote it, it's just like simple, like, you know, you read one page, you don't have to read it in order, but do one thing a day to say, okay, look, even if I just make the choice to get out of bed, brush my teeth, and take a shower today, and then I just crash, like, okay, cool, I did something positive to start breaking that cycle. And I think they're little steps, and then recognizing, like, it's okay to say, "Today just needs to be a day that sucks." Like, that's okay. I'm gonna stay on the couch, I'm gonna watch TV and do my thing, because some days you just need that rest. But, making that choice to sort of start to break the cycle, I think is really important.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm an entrepreneur. Have my company, it's running, went through, difficult times, right? And these difficult times are stretching out, it goes from a week, to a month to a quarter. How do you stay optimistic? How do you continue to what are some tricks or some tools that we can use to, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say stay above ground, but
I
that's
like
probably
that,
not
I
the
like
best
That's
way to say
okay. No, that's okay. You know, that's actually a choice. That's
but
right. It's good.
what are some tools that we can use, or what are some ways that we can continue to focus on, hey, it's going to be one client, it's going to be two clients, this is going to happen at some point. But and the other piece to that, though, is we don't know when that point is going to occur. And so what we have is, and what I'm thinking about is the idea that the hope deferred is always difficult to manage. So what do you recommend? What are your thoughts?
No, I love it. I think there's that line in Ted Lasso, they talk about hope heals, right? It's that, "Oh my gosh, like, if I'm only running on hope, I'm gonna be let down," and Brené Brown talks about this, foreboding joy. It's like, we're living in this constant state of the other shoe might drop. And so I think, as an entrepreneur, as just a human, like life really is hard. Like, it's complicated, and
Yeah.
we deal with other people's emotions, and we deal with things that we can't control from political and social and all these things coming our way. So life is really hard. And I think the only way to just get out of this with a smile on your face, especially when there's a series of, you're, uh, so we started the year at my company. We were in a tough financial position. We had to lay some people off, and we had to just grind it out and make it work, right? And
Yeah.
those days just suck. They really, really are terrible. And I had a few days in that cycle where I'm like, "Okay, I need to check out, I need to be sad, I need to process it." But then, again, it's almost like putting a time limit. "Okay, I'm gonna be sad for, like, a half hour, and I'm just gonna take a nap," or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
then I'm gonna go make 3 more phone calls. I'm gonna go, for me, I'm gonna go to Boise and talk to people in the Capitol and, like, do different things to, have stuff make sense. I think you have to just make it's that choose one positive step forward, and maybe you have 3 steps back, but, you know, maybe you take 3 steps forward the next time you talk about clients. Like, I get 3 clients tomorrow, and man, I lost one. It's just this battle. So I think you just have to keep focused on the future. Don't lose hope. I mean, I think that's the worst thing to do is lose hope, and not let hope kinda that foreboding joy just sort of overwhelm you. Just believe, like, tomorrow, even if you're wrong, man, I'd rather believe that tomorrow's gonna be a great day versus not.
For
Even if
sure.
you
For sure.
lie to yourself or borrow strength from a friend, there's lots of ways to get through it.
Yeah. I'm gonna push a little bit harder. I have a very good friend. I think it was like 2 years ago. She left corporate and she's gonna start a coaching business where she's gonna help people, and help people think differently and help people, and she feels really led and called to do this. And so she runs the business for a year. She can't find any clients, right? And so, she closes the business and she's doing some other things and she's, doing some research work and stuff like that, really positive work, and she's staying optimistic through this whole process. So it's like, well, I got to go through this and I got to do this and I got to do that. And then, at a certain point, she's a very logical person. She comes to the conclusion that life sucks, and she enters this place of despair.
Yeah.
You know, how does she come back from that? How does she, I mean, she doesn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's just not there anymore. How do we navigate that? I mean, it's not necessarily that, we I'm wondering how realistic it is that, we maintain optimism, but, there's some level of, reality that is going to be in there. But we have to keep going. We want to keep going.
No, I love it, and I think that's the really important part, the realistic optimism, right? So, she is making a logical choice. Like, sometimes the things we wanna do, they may not work out, right? Like, I have some really great plans and I've failed many times, right? And you can go through that. I think this is the most important thing. So, leadership is so lonely, right? I mean, being a leader is very lonely. And I think this is the most important thing is having a tribe, having a couple people around you that you can borrow strength from, right? Like, so if she was my friend and, like, I want to be her friend because I've got hope to share, right? So she can call me and I like she could just vent and say, "Tell me all the things that suck," and, like, get it off her chest, and then I'm gonna say, "That really sucks. How can I help?" So, there I love this my wife and I have this thing, hug, fix, or fight, right? So, if somebody's venting or they just need some help, like, I wanna help and I need a task, and so, "Do you just want a hug? Or can I fix something?" Or maybe we need to fight, not necessarily fight, but we just need to, like, work through something, to get through it, and there's something that's healing that happens in that. So, I think we all need somebody around us, to just be that safe space where you can vent, you can, and it, like you said, she's starting a coaching business, right? So that in particular, like, that's exactly what people need. And so sometimes even going through that yourself and having that experience, gives you some extra tools to then go back and the next time you're talking to a client or you're making a pitch, you can say, "You know what? It is really lonely being a leader. and I've been struggling to build this business, and man, you might be my first client, and I promise I'm gonna just move mountains for you because I'm so excited. I feel like I've been called to do this work, and we're gonna make it happen, right? Like, but maybe she borrowed that energy from you. She borrowed that energy from me, and then I'm gonna have a really bad day someday too, and I might call her and say, "Listen, life sucks. I want to quit," and she's gonna say, "Mike, don't quit. Remember what you told me, right?" And I think that's just how we make it work.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's cool. It's like we're creating a community or
Mhm.
communities. I love that about the for business owners in particular, just creating roundtables. A lot of times in the roundtables or the theory around the roundtables is, hey, we're going to help each other build each other's businesses. But, the reality is like, as entrepreneurs, we're people first, we're humans first, and we suffer and we go through stuff and stuff like that. And being able to have someone that we can lean on to help, helps us really help clarify, some of that dark space so we can, see a path forward, even when it looks like there is no path forward. Right?
Yeah. No, I mean, we were designed like, the human side of us is designed to be around other people. We're designed to be part of a tribe, a community. I mean, there's just something and whether I don't know how people wanna explain it, but there's an energy that we share, and you it's really easy to lose it. I think that the quickest way to despair and fear and all the negativity is isolation and loneliness because we get in our heads and we don't like, we let the dark things spin around too much, and we don't have an outlet for it, and I think that's where I love the roundtables. I am so fortunate. So I work in Idaho, and there's 13 other CEOs of community health centers. We meet once a quarter. We have a text thread. Like, there's no one else in my state that knows exactly what I'm going through, but they're all going through very similar problems. And so we talk, and like half the time, our the times we meet, they're like group therapy sessions. Because, we get to take care of each other, and, one of the CEOs, great friend of mine, she's famous for the Instagram, like, uplifting message in the morning, and you just needed that day, right?
Yeah.
So I think you have to surround yourself with people that want to, see you be successful, and I think that helps, but, share the optimism, and if you don't have it, man, I have a song I wrote called "Borrow Mine," and it's all about that. Like, if you don't have the strength today, just borrow some of mine, and I've got some to share. I love that about the human experience.
What was the most, I guess, interesting or out there thing you pursued and you were just like, you know what? I don't know how it's gonna work, but I think this is gonna work.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had several things in the healthcare side of things, but most recently, so my worlds all kind of blend. So I actually just I have an art show. First time I'm in a gallery here in Coeur d'Alene. It's this amazing gallery in Coeur d'Alene, and I put together 40 pieces, and it's all telling a story about women's health. And so it's like all my creative stuff, and then I'm connecting it to my work stuff, and man, the day that they announced the show, I upset the art community in Portland. Like, the online, I was the devil because 'cause I'm a man talking about women's health, and I used AI to create these art pieces, right? And so the whole message that I was trying to get across, like, healthcare for women is really difficult across the globe. In Idaho, we have some very restrictive laws. Doctors are moving out of town because they're worried about, practicing. And so I wanted to create this out of the box art piece. Like, if I maybe I can create these pieces and I have stories about what I've seen women go through in my life. Maybe that'll help me tell a story that helps me recruit doctors that want to come live in Idaho. So it was this crazy thing, but man, I mean, online, I got hammered. Like, "Who is this guy? What are you doing? You're the worst." And then, back to the human connection. So people that came to the show, there were many people that were skeptical of AI, but they came to the show, and I had a man walked up to one of the images I had created, and he just burst into tears. It's like, "Oh my gosh, that's my son in drug rehab." And right next to that, that's my daughter, and she's gone through hell in corporate, but she kicked ass, like, she did her thing. And so, like, they had these powerful connections to it, and so it's like, man, I had no idea. And I stalled that art show for a while because I'm like, I'm not an artist. I'm not. Like, actually don't wanna be. That was really mean and terrible, right? But I'm a storyteller, right? I can grab onto storyteller and I can do that. So
Uh-huh.
it was the craziest thing, and I had a couple days when all the hate was coming at me where I'm like, "I'm gonna pull the show. I'm gonna drop it." Like, the gallery's getting beat up. Like, this isn't worth it. Like,
Yeah.
go burn the art down. I don't care. It's detracting from the story. And guess what? My wife and my daughter both said, "Dad, don't quit. You're doing something amazing. You're changing the world." I mean, like, I was out of hope, and I borrowed it from my wife and my daughter, who I was fighting for in the art show, and I always fight for them. But they they lent me their strength, and we made it through it, and it's been a phenomenal reception when you're live and not on the internet. So, I don't know, I hope that story makes sense, but, that's the most recent example of sort of out of the box, like, "Mike Baker, what the heck are you doing?" kinda thing, and I didn't know how it was gonna work out, and I struggled, and I felt like a failure, and now I feel like, "Okay, I did actually do something pretty cool here." I don't know that I'll ever do it again, but it was a really cool experience, yeah.
What is one of the other things, as entrepreneurs, we develop a lot of offerings, whether it's, service based or, product based. What is the difference? What do you suspect the difference in the energy that's behind something that you're optimistic about versus something that I'm not going to say pessimistic, but something you're
Yeah,
just like, okay, let's put this out there and let's hope, let's cross our fingers and toes that it does something positive.
love it. Great recent example. So I went to it's called the Health Conference in Las Vegas. You know, the show floor is full of entrepreneurs. This year it was mostly AI based companies. They've created something cool and they want to pitch it and sell it and get a chance to get started. You talk to the VC guys in the show, they're like 90% of these companies, they're not going to be here next year, right? It's not going to work. The ones that are going to make it are the ones that believe in their product and the ones that can tell a story that brings people into it. And so, you know, if you don't believe in your product, probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur for that product, right? Like you've got to believe in it. It's really, and many of the entrepreneurs I talk to, they're like, look, my product is not perfect. I'm looking for a place that, uh, you know, let me be like, can you guys be my sandbox? Can you help me develop this tool? Right? I know it's gonna be great. It's gonna do really good things. Here's how I see it helping your company. And I'm still in the early stages and look, I get it. I'm gonna knock down the price and you're gonna be a sandbox guy. Or hey, I've been in the sandbox, I've developed this thing. I guarantee that this thing's gonna get your doctors home 10 minutes earlier each night, right? Like that's something I wanna know. If you're like, "Well, it's a mediocre product," I think it's just the difference in that, and you saw that with the people on the sales floor, like, they'd reach out to you and, not the used car salesman, like, "Get in here" thing, but you saw this genuine look in their eyes, like, "I believe in this product, and it's gonna make a difference in the world." And I think you have to have that optimism to make that work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think about like salespeople, salespeople that believe in their product, that are very excited about the work they're doing and the change they're going to make in the lives of the people that they're selling to, versus those that are just saying, hey, you're just another number. I'm smiling and dialing.
Mhm.
I'm trying to make my numbers. That makes total sense. W- As far as the book, what are you most excited for people to read or learn about?
Honestly, I never this is, that whole imposter thing coming back. It's like, I didn't like always thought that was a cool thing, right? Like write a book. That's the story. For me, it's I want to connect with people across the world. Like that is my what with my music and the stuff I've done with the art and the book. It's like I get messages from people across the world that have said, "Hey, I listened to that song and it made me happier." Like today on TikTok, I released a Christmas album, and I have people on TikTok that are using my songs in their videos about Christmas. I'm like, that is so cool for me. Like, sure, someday it'd be fun to make money doing this, but the the joy really comes from having people benefit from something that I just put out in the universe. So For the book, I mean, I think there is so much negativity right now. Like, if I can help a few people wake up tomorrow and say, I'm gonna do 3 things that put a smile on my face, that's so cool. I mean, I think that's what we all should be doing, because it's so easy to feel lost. We're losing way too many people in our country, because they lose hope. They do give up. And, that's a hard thing. We don't talk about that very well as a society. And so the opposite for me is, let's talk about things that bring hope and do it in a genuine way. Like, I'm not here to sort of blow sunshine somewhere, right? Like, I'm here to just be a friend and let you borrow some of my strength, because I know that I'm going to have a day where I need a network of people that have strength that I can borrow from. It's It's not selfish, but it's like, man, if I can build this network and create this extra resource of energy that I can tap into, I think that's how you start to change the world. I think that's how you build community back. We lost it through COVID. We've lost it through the divisive political nature of our country right now. It's so easy to see people as other, and you see despair and fear all just creeping in. And I think I'm very naive, like, I get it. I know that, hey, my book's not gonna solve the world's problems, but there are powerful, passages in there, and there's tips to say, "Listen, tomorrow doesn't have to suck." Like, it might suck still, but let's make it suck less. Let's do a couple things and just start to get people connected as humans again. So that's my hope. That is my real hope in the with the book.
What are some of the tips that we can take advantage of?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's really these small active things. So one, we talk about, like, build a network, build people around you, have people that you can talk to, you can borrow their strength. And then, when you get stuck in that cycle, yeah, I think it takes active planning. We're talking to entrepreneurs and business people on this show. You're going to create a strategic plan to make the next 3 weeks better. And so in your strategic plan, that means I need to get out of bed. I need to brush my teeth. I need to fake a smile if I have to. I need to call that friend that I can borrow some strength from. I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna be in nature. I'm gonna connect with the sunshine. Like, I'm gonna do a few things that start to fill my bucket. And it's those small, simple choices every day that start to break you out of that cycle. And I think that's really what the book does. It just gives you some positive things. It's like, okay, look, today's Wednesday and it's okay. You're gonna sleep and do your thing. Thursday, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna walk around the block 5 times. You're gonna take your dog out. You're gonna call your mom. Like, do something here that can lift your spirits. And that's the only way. Like, it takes active work to break out of that fear and despair cycle. And to get hope again, you have to almost have to trick yourself into, believing that tomorrow can be better, only because you know that you're gonna put the work in to make tomorrow better.
What I'm hearing you say with the morning routine in particular is you're really starting with finding happiness or finding joy.
Mhm.
You're doing those things that will start to plant those seeds. And then as those seeds develop, as you nurture those seeds, so to speak, then you start to think differently or see the world differently, optimistically. You start to grow hope so that as you're moving through your day, you're not just just another cog in the wheel, so to speak. You're actually have momentum. You have energy behind the things that you're doing.
Yep. Well, I think that's perfect, and, kinda goes back to just the concept of, like, remember back when you were a kid, it was so easy to find joy. Like, you got a box as a 4-year-old, and you're like, "I'm gonna build a fort," and it's a cardboard box, and we throw them away all the time, right? Like, you go back to that, you kinda give yourself permission to go back to being a kid for a minute and saying, "What were those things that brought me joy? Did I like to run?" Did I paint? Did I draw? Did I write in my journal? Hopscotch, whatever it is. And then add that variety to your life. Because if all you do is wake up and go to work, come home and take a nap, like, gotta find another thing that fills your soul, because work's always gonna drain your soul. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just part of it. We're giving our soul to make that happen, and you gotta find things that refill it. So maybe that's the spiritual side, maybe that's meditation, reading great books, listening to podcasts like yours, like, there's lots of things that you can do to find inspiration, but it does require you have to make a choice to go find it sometimes. Unless you have that network that's so strong and they're ready and they know they're like, "Oh, man, Mike's been off for a week or 2, like, he doesn't seem all bright, cheery, and sunshine. Maybe I should call him and check in." Sometimes that happens, but, a lot of times it's you making a decision that tomorrow's gonna be better, and my message to everybody is like, "Look, I may not know you, but my contact information's in the book. DM me, like, you wanna borrow some hope? I promise I'll share my hope with you." And, that's how we make this world better.
Mhm. I'm kinda giggling about, remembering back to childhood and, like, as Gen Xers, we experienced childhood.
Exactly, I know. I drank out of a hose and yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Amazing. What would be cool is if, like, there was we had, like, an optimism app,
Mhm.
and it's like, connected to like everybody in the world, and everybody has like an optimism meter on there. It's just like, where are we on the scale? It's like, hey, we
Love
need
it.
to call Mike. Mike looks a little low.
I love it. Oh, I think it's great. One, I think you can so we have entrepreneurs, so now someone's gonna go build that app, and that's awesome. I love it. But until then, I think you can see it on social media for people that are on there. Is sometimes I mean, sometimes people are posting like, so those vague posts like, "Oh, tomorrow's gonna be better." I mean, at some point you have to, like, pay attention to the cues and get there. So I think social media drains hope too often. Like for me, in the art shows, like, man, I was just trying to do something good, and all of a sudden, I'm a thief and I'm a terrible person. Blah blah, and it's like, whoa, that drained the hope meter, and I needed to borrow some hope to get through the next couple days. I love it. I think just be aware. We all have people in our circle. It might be family, it might be friends, it might be colleagues. Like generally, like I'm an empath, so I feel like I notice things more often than others. But generally, that like the person sitting in the cubicle next to you, they're up there sobbing. Maybe check in and say, "Hey, are you okay?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What I guess dawned on me while you were talking about that was, um, especially the social media piece. One thing I learned from famous people is just totally stay out of your DMs.
Yeah, exactly,
Just leave them alone.
totally.
But
Turn off the comments.
we sometimes have those people around us that are those energy sucks, and we're driving towards like I think you were talking about your not actually your board member, but it's like we're sitting here and we're driving, and I know my answer to this, but we're driving, we're like, hey, we're going to do this thing, and then you've got that person that's kind of sandbagging whatever that project is. What do you do? Because that it pulls that it does the opposite of getting energy. What do you do in that scenario?
No, it's true. I've heard people refer to that sort of personality type as like the energy vampire, right? Like
Yes,
they're
that
getting
guy.
their nutrients off of you, right? And so you have to balance it. Look, when we're in a work environment or a family setting, you're going to have personalities that bring variety to life. There's an
Bring
optimistic way to say
variety.
that, right? They bring variety and they bring opportunities for growth. But like at some point, you do have to cut people off and say, listen, I'm not gonna get to point B with that personality, right? And it's not gonna work. And like like, man, I'm gonna work my butt off to try to help you come along with. And there's a point where look, you don't get to come on the ride with us anymore. And like I can't give you all of my energy because I'm gonna lose traction on where I'm going. And so that's a hard thing to do. I think every team, every family, every friend group, like there is someone in that group that is the Eeyore, and they're good people. Like they just, we have all had hard things happen in our lives, and maybe that's someone that just needs a little extra love, and maybe you can bring them along. But at some point, you do have to have those boundaries to say, look, I've given you all the energy I can. I'm jeopardizing the future for someone that doesn't really wanna come along the journey. Maybe you're gonna be happier somewhere else. I think as leaders, sometimes we're slower to fire people. I know I struggled with that earlier in my career. Like, "I can save everybody. Come on, we can do this." And then, at some point, you're just like, "Man, this just isn't a great fit for you. It's not great for me. It's hurting the company." And that requires a lot of brave energy from a leader. But I think it's the right thing. We have this phrase we talk about, like, saving the one and losing the many, right? In that process. Okay, I gotta bring the team along.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What was going through my mind when you were talking about the energy vampires, that devil's advocate. If you think about like 5 dysfunctions of the team, he talks about like the team makeup, and it's important
Yeah,
to have that person.
it is.
How do we distinguish, between that energy vampire and that devil's advocate? I mean, and obviously they could be one and the same person, but
They can be. It's really important. So, look, I'm preface this is how I joke with my wife, but so I'm always like up in the clouds, and my wife's like a system processing person. So I'm like, you keep me grounded on earth. You bring me down, right? But you find that balance. She can be devil's advocate to me. And like obviously I love her and things are great. So we figured out how to make that work. But like in the work setting, um, advocates are really important. I have blind spots, especially super optimists like me. Like I definitely have blind spots. I really appreciate somebody that can be a devil's advocate. There's always a way to be a devil's advocate without draining the energy out of the room. Like, "Hey, Mike, great idea. You're amazing, Mike." But, like, you start in that way. If you come at me and you're like, "Hey, you're a terrible person," blah, 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 and they may have just said, "Hey, I don't like the idea," but I hear, "Terrible person, let the world down, blah, blah, blah." So I think there's a right way to deliver the message. Devil's advocates are incredibly important. I myself have shifted in my role as CEO many times to be the devil's advocate with my team. And it's so funny to watch people's faces when I flip my roles sometimes. They're just like,
I'm
wait a minute.
confused at that
Yeah,
idea.
exactly. What are you doing here? But it's a really important role. I think, how you determine whether or not that they're being a devil's advocate or the energy vampire kind of by consistency. Like if you're always saying no, if you're always shutting things down, if you're never seeing the bright side, okay, you're just there to drain the energy from the room. But, you know, I may listen to your feedback and take it or not. If you can still come on the journey with us and believe in the dream, then I think that really sets you out from being the vampire versus just someone being a devil's advocate. I think it's really important.
Mm, 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 mm. Has there been a time when, your optimism has gotten you in trouble? Besides
Totally.
art gallery?
Percent. No, 100%, 100%. I mean, early on in my career, like we all learn things as we grow. So I've been doing this for 15 years. I have definitely overestimated my ability to be successful in projects in healthcare, right? I mean, I was like, yeah, we got this. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, I really missed the mark. I had a blind spot here. And I think, again, that's the value of having a tribe. I am fortunate. I love my board of directors. Always been incredibly supportive. And they've also helped me see blind spots, and they've called me out when I'm missing something, and even the gentleman on my board that's like, "Mike, you're too optimistic." He is the most caring, loving, supportive, amazing human, but it was a really great thing for him to say because it was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not delivering the right message. They're hearing sunshine and rainbows." My board needed to all I had to do was slow down and say, "Guys, I am worried. I'm scared. Like, I really, really am scared, and I'm not like, I know we're gonna solve this problem, but 100% sure on every single step or the timing, right?" And as soon as they heard that, it's like in math class showing your work versus just turning in your answer. That really helped. So we need a tribe around us. And yeah, I've definitely definitely made mistakes being too optimistic.
That smile shows like other mistake.
That's right.
Last question for you. So,
Yeah.
the name of the show, of course, is The Relentless Pursuit of Winning. And so what we want to do is we want to encourage our listeners to always think about that pursuit. Winning is never a straight line. Winning is defined by the individual, obviously. What would you recommend to our audience in terms of, just maintaining that relentless pursuit?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's back to the small, simple choices. I mean, you should believe that tomorrow can be better. I mean, to me, that's the definite definition of winning. Tomorrow's better. You're gonna land the deal. You're gonna, you know, make a difference in the world. You're gonna cure a patient. You're gonna make somebody smile. Always be chasing that win. And just believe that you can get there. I mean, I know that sounds so simple and trite, but if you believe you can get there, you're going to get there. It may not look like what it looks like in my head right now, but you're going to do the work to get there. If you believe you can get there, um, man, make those small choices. I would say build a net. If you don't have a network of friends around you, number one thing, like, go start meeting people, or, call Uncle Bob that, had a restaurant for 10 years, or, whatever. Like, find people that you can connect with to just have in your pocket to say, "Man, how can I work through this problem?" And if you don't have that person, listen to your podcast, reach out to me on social media, whatever. Like, we'll help you find a network. I think that's what the coolest thing about podcasts and putting yourself out there. We're gonna connect with people, and we're gonna, try to solve problems with people. So build that network, and then build your own strategic plan. Like, you're an entrepreneur, you have an idea, you're gonna do something. So make a personal strategic plan about how I can be optimistic. And, you know, so tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna do meditation and breathing. At the end of the day, I'm gonna write in my journal 5 things I was grateful for. Here were my 5 wins for today. And they may have been, I brushed my teeth, I called my mom, I ate breakfast, and I took a nap. Like, cool, way to go, you did it. Or, I made 3 phone calls that I was scared to make, or I actually fired the energy vampire from my team. Like, whatever it is, make that strategic plan and then just follow it. And then use your network of people to kind of be your accountability partners, and you're going to get there. Like, I know that you're going to get there. I don't even know you, whoever's listening, and like, I know you know it. I know it. Like, you're going to go do something amazing today. And man, just keep believing that.
I love that. I love that. So you came up with two business ideas.
That's
One,
right.
the Optimism Network,
That's right. I think that was yours. You get all credit.
and and the Optimism app. Okay, so
That's
so
right. I
those are
like it.
yours.
Way to go.
Go do the thing. If someone wants to reach out to you, buy your book, connect with you on social media, what's the best ways to do that?
Yeah, my book's on Amazon. You just, Optimist Way. I think we'll, have show notes, and if you reach out, can't afford the book, I'll send you a copy of the book. Like, I just want people to see it. That's great. We give some away. I just want to make new friends and connect with the world. So send me a message if you need help getting the book. I'm on social media. I'm Mike the Optimist on Instagram. Imagine that. And then just my website's just mikebakerhq.com. So lots of ways to find me. Man, I would love to connect with anybody that's
Awesome.
listening. Yep. Makes me
Awesome,
smile.
Mike. This is great. I feel optimistic.
Love it. I appreciate it. I am too. Like, I love your energy. I like, 'cause we talked it before the show was starting. I mean, your podcast and the interviews you do, I mean, they are so helpful. If somebody just tuned in today, like, go back and listen to the previous episodes, and definitely subscribe and follow this podcast. It's something you want to have in your toolkit, because there's inspiration. Like, each guest has some magic secret that you need to find and put into your life. And Rick, I appreciate you, having me on the show, and just, listening to you over. I think that's the kind of the coolest thing of, like, podcast stuff is, I feel like I know you already, and we've only talked a few times, but I've listened to you for hours, and it's a really fun thing about it. So thanks for the genuine approach you take to giving people an opportunity to tell their story, but your questions are always, like, I feel very human. Like, you really seem to care about what you're doing. It's very genuine. Thank you. It's a real honor to be on the show.
Wow, I'm totally humbled. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Certainly. Folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We'll catch you next time.